The hanging tree. The rope creaked before the wind did. A hush swept through Cinder Gulch as the dawn bled red across the desert ridge. Boots shifted in the dust, and breath hung heavy in the morning chill. The town had gathered, men in worn hats, women clutching shawls tied around their shoulders, eyes hungry for something righteous or cruel, depending on the telling. The hanging tree stood at the edge of town, its bark black and cracked like sunburned earth. A single branch stretched over the crowd, carrying the weight of one swaying rope. Marisol Greyhawk stood beneath it, wrists bound, the noose scratching her skin. Her dress, once blue, was now the color of dirt. Blood had dried at her temple where someone's rifle but had struck her. She didn't speak, didn't cry, only stared ahead at the horizon, where the sky met the dust, where freedom might have been. The sheriff spat tobacco and grunted. "Half-blood witch," he muttered, loud enough for all to hear. "You got one thing left to say. Make it quick." No one moved. Even the horses stood silent. A crow screamed from the church steeple. Marisol's lips parted. "He came to me first," she said, voice hoarse but steady. "Your precious William tried to." "Enough." The sheriff's hand flashed up. "You killed the son of a good man. You'll swing for it." Her words died in her throat as two deputies stepped forward. One adjusted the rope, the other pulled the lever on the gallows. The wooden plank beneath her boots creaked. From the back of the crowd, someone whispered, "She ain't even crying." Another spat, "Ain't human blood in her veins." "That's why." Marisol's gaze drifted upward. The branch above her head twisted in the wind, scarred with old knife marks. Other names, other hangings. Her pulse beat against the rope like a drum. Then came the sound, distant at first, faint as thunder over the flats. Hooves. One rider. Steady. Purposeful. Heads turned. Down the road from the western ridge came a man on a gray horse, coat flapping in the wind, hat brim shadowing his face. He rode like the sun wasn't rising, like it rose for him. The sheriff squinted. Who in hell? But no one answered. The man didn't slow. He rode straight into the square, dust rising in his wake. When his horse stopped, silence fell again. The town seemed to breathe him in, dust, leather, the cold edge of something dangerous. "Sheriff," he said, his voice low, gravel and smoke. "You sure you want to do this?" The sheriff's chest puffed. "Ain't none of your concern, stranger. This woman's a killer." "She's not," the man said. Marisol blinked, eyes narrowing. She didn't know him. She'd never seen that face. Or had she? The sheriff's hand hovered near his holster. "You best move along." The man dismounted slowly, dust spilling from his boots as he hit the ground. His spurs jingled once. He took off his hat, revealing gray streak hair and eyes pale as gunmetal. "I said," the sheriff repeated, "move along." He didn't. Instead, the stranger stepped closer to the gallows. The crowd parted, quiet as grass in the wind. He walked like a man who'd buried too many people already and didn't plan to bury one more. Marisol watched him stop at the foot of the platform. The noose tugged tighter with her breath. "Don't," she whispered. "They'll kill you too." He looked up at her. "Maybe," he said, "but not today." The sheriff nodded to his deputies. "Do it." The lever clanked. The trapdoor fell. A scream caught in the crowd. But before the rope snapped tight, a rifle cracked through the air. The sound echoed off the saloon walls, rolling out into the desert like thunder. The rope split clean in two. Marisol dropped hard onto the platform, gasping. Her knees hit wood. Her hands scraped blood. The noose fell beside her like a dead snake. Panic. Men shouted. Guns were drawn. The sheriff yelled, "Get him!" But the stranger already had his rifle leveled, barrel steady as a mountain. "Don't!" No one moved. The wind rose, whipping dust through the square. The sheriff's eyes burned. "Who the hell are you?" The stranger's voice stayed calm. "Name's not important." He slung the rifle across his shoulder and climbed the gallows steps. Each boot fall thudded like a heartbeat. He reached Marisol, untied her wrists, then lifted her to her feet. Her body trembled, but her eyes held his, searching. When she spoke, her voice was a whisper. "Why?" He didn't answer right away. The whole town waited, frozen in the morning heat. He looked down at the frayed rope, then back to the sheriff. His words came quiet, too quiet. "She's not yours to hang." Then louder, so even the wind stopped to listen. "She's mine." The words hit like a hammer. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A woman gasped. A man cursed under his breath. The sheriff's face turned red. "Yours? She's a killer, you damn fool." The stranger didn't blink. "You killed the truth long before she ever touched it." He turned, helping Marisol down from the gallows. Guns clicked all around them, but no one fired. The way he moved, calm, certain, made even the bravest hesitate. The wind shifted. The church bell gave a single hollow note. The stranger led her to his horse. She stumbled once, her legs weak, but he caught her arm before she fell. She looked up at him again, something old stirring in her eyes, something she hadn't felt since before the rope. "You shouldn't have done that," she said softly. "They'll come for you." He helped her into the saddle, his hand steady on her back. "Let him come." He swung up behind her, took the reins, and turned the horse toward the open desert. The crowd parted once more, silent now, eyes full of the thing they didn't understand, mercy. Dust rose in their wake. The sheriff shouted orders, but no one moved to follow. By the time the sun climbed over the ridge, the hanging tree stood empty again, the rope torn, the branch swaying in the wind. And somewhere in the whispering sand, a legend had begun to breathe. Ashes of blood and dust. The coyotes were howling before the stars came out. Marisol stirred beside the dying fire, her breath shallow, wrists raw from the rope burns. The night smelled of smoke, sage, and blood. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the tree again, its black limbs, the faces beneath it, the noose sliding against her skin. A boot scraped gravel. She jerked up. The stranger, Caleb, was crouched by the fire, rifle across his knees, eyes fixed on the horizon. The flames flickered against the hard lines of his face. "They'll be coming," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of certainty. Marisol's throat felt dry as ash. "You should have left me there." Caleb didn't look at her. "Couldn't. You don't even know me." "I know enough." He poked the fire with a stick. Sparks rose and vanished in the wind. "You weren't guilty." Her eyes dropped to the dirt. "In this country, guilt's got a color. Mine's the wrong one." The silence between them stretched. The wind brushed through the dead grass, whispering like ghosts. Behind them, the abandoned ranch groaned with the night, wood shifting, a shutter clattering in the breeze. A dry well sat half-filled with dust. The place looked like it hadn't seen laughter in a decade. Marisol wrapped the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "This your land?" It was he said. He rose slowly, went to the corral, and tightened the saddle straps on his horse. Even the way he moved spoke of old habits, soldier habits, gunfighter habits, the kind that never truly die. When he came back, he carried a tin cup of water and set it beside her. "Drink slow." She hesitated, then took it, her fingers brushing his glove. For the first time, she saw it, the faint scar that ran across his knuckles, deep and white like lightning frozen in flesh. "Who are you?" she asked. He sat again, back to the fire, eyes on the dark beyond the hills. "Name's Caleb Ward." The name hung there, heavy. Something in it felt known. She'd heard it whispered once, long ago, by a drifter who spoke of the man who could outdraw death itself. "Ward," she murmured. "The Widowmaker." He didn't answer, but the faintest shift in his jaw told her she was right. The silence broke with a distant crack of thunder. No, not thunder. Hooves. Faint, but moving fast. Marisol's heart jumped. Caleb stood, eyes narrowing. Sheriff's men. They found a trail. He doused the fire with a sweep of sand, plunging them into darkness. The night swallowed them whole. "Inside," he said. They slipped into the cabin, the door groaning softly behind them. The air smelled of dust and age, furniture draped in cobwebs, old photographs gray with time. Caleb moved with quiet precision, checking the windows, his rifle steady in his hands. Through a cracked shutter, Marisol saw torches flickering along the ridge, 5 riders, maybe 6. Their voices carried faintly through the wind. She whispered, "They'll kill you for helping me." He chambered around. Wouldn't be the first time someone tried. The word struck her, cold, calm, final. He waited at the window. The firelight from the riders' torches painted moving ghosts across the dirt. Marisol's fingers trembled. She touched her throat where the rope had burned her. "I was just trying to help a boy," she said softly. "He came to me with a fever. That's how his brother found me. Said I'd cursed him." Caleb didn't answer. "I didn't kill him. I know." The torches were closer now. The metallic click of rifle bolts echoed across the plain. Caleb's horse neighed softly from the corral. He whispered, "When I tell you, go out the back. Take the canyon trail. It'll lead you to the river. And you, I'll buy you time." Marisol shook her head. "No." He turned, and for the first time, she saw the years etched deep into his face. Loss, guilt, something hollow behind the calm. "They killed my wife and boy," he said quietly. "Hung them same as you. Said she was trading with Apaches. I came home too late." Marisol's breath caught. "I'm sorry." He looked back toward the riders. "Don't be. I've been waiting on a reason to stand up again." "Guess you're it." The riders reached the fence line. One shouted, "Ward, we know you're in there. Hand her over, and maybe we'll let you live." Caleb didn't answer. He stepped away from the window, set his rifle down, and pulled two old revolvers from a chest near the wall. The grips were carved with initials, CW. He checked each cylinder, spun them, and slid one into his holster. "Take the other," he said, holding out to her. "I can't." "You can." She stared at the weapon, at the ghost of her shaking reflection in the steel. Then she took it. The first bullet hit the doorframe. Wood splintered. Marisol gasped and dropped to the floor. Caleb fired once through the window. A scream followed. "Go," he barked. But she didn't move. She couldn't. Two more shots shattered the glass. He ducked, reloaded, returned fire, smooth, fast, precise. The rhythm was terrifying and beautiful all at once. Then silence. When it broke, it was with the soft groan of a man dying outside, the horses scattering in panic. Caleb exhaled slowly, lowering his gun. "They'll send more by dawn." Marisol's voice trembled. "You can't keep doing this." He looked at her, his face half in shadow. "I don't aim to keep doing anything, just to finish what started." Outside, the desert stretched endless and empty. The stars burned sharp as blades above them. She followed him out to the porch. The bodies of two men lay sprawled in the dust. The torches had gone out. Caleb stood over them, jaw set, the wind pulling at his coat. Marisol whispered, "You saved me again." He didn't turn. "Don't thank me." "Why not?" "Because when morning comes, you'll wish I hadn't." She stepped beside him, the revolver still in her hand. "You think you're the only one with ghosts." For a moment, their eyes met, his full of fire, hers full of defiance. Something passed between them, old as the land itself. He looked away first. "Get some rest. We ride at dawn." She didn't move. "Where to?" "Back to the place where it started." He turned toward the dark horizon. The wind caught his hat brim, and for an instant, the stars behind him looked like sparks from a forge, as if the night itself was preparing for war. Marisol stood there watching him, the revolver heavy in her palm, the ashes of the fire still glowing faintly behind them. She didn't know it yet, but the man beside her wasn't just her savior. He was her reckoning. The reckoning ride. The first bullet missed his head by an inch. Caleb didn't flinch. He fired once, twice. Two men fell from their saddles into the dust, torches tumbling beside them. The desert echoed with thunder as dawn cracked open behind the ridge. "Ride," he barked. Marisol kicked her horse hard. The animal surged forward, hooves striking sparks off stone. Dust and gunfire tangled in the wind. Behind them, the sheriff's men shouted curses, chasing through the canyon mouth. The light grew brighter, orange bleeding into gold. Shadows stretched long and sharp across the sand. Every breath burned. Every heartbeat sounded like war drums. Caleb turned in the saddle, rifle braced against his arm. He fired into the rising sun, the recoil snapping through his shoulder. One more man dropped, rolling in the dust. Marisol ducked low, bullets whining past her hair. "How many?" she shouted. "Enough to end it," he said. They reached the edge of the canyon and slowed. The land fell away in steep red walls, the river glinting far below. Caleb pulled his horse around sharply, eyes scanning the horizon. "We can't keep running," Marisol said, breathless. He nodded once. Didn't plan to. The wind howled through the canyon, whipping her hair across her face. She saw it then, the set of his jaw, the calm in his eyes, and knew what he meant to do. "You're going back," she said. "I'm going home," he replied. The town waited hours later under the white glare of noon. Dust hung thick over Cinder Gulch as Caleb rode in, Marisol beside him. The street went silent. Miners froze with shovels mid-swing. Saloon doors creaked half open. The piano inside stilled. The sheriff stood on the porch of the Silver Spur, hands on his belt, a smirk curling his lip. "Well, I'll be damned," he said. The widowmaker crawled out of his grave after all. Caleb dismounted slowly. His boots sank into the dust. "You left me there once," he said. "Guess I came back to return the favor." The sheriff laughed, the sound sharp and mean. "You think you can stroll into my town and make threats, Ward? You're outnumbered." Caleb's voice was quiet. "Always have been." Marisol slid from her horse, her revolver holstered but ready. Her eyes swept the crowd, townsfolk peering from behind barrels and doorframes. She could feel their fear, their curiosity, their hunger for a show. The sheriff nodded to his men. 6 stepped forward, rifles leveled. The sunlight caught on the metal, blinding and hot. Caleb stepped out into the street. "You lied about the boy," he said. "You killed him when he tried to blackmail you. Then you blamed her." The sheriff spat. "You got no proof of that." Caleb's hand hovered near his holster. "Don't need proof when you've got truth." A breeze swept down the street, carrying the smell of horse, sweat, and old whiskey. A dog barked once, then went silent. The sheriff's hand twitched toward his gun. Caleb's eyes didn't move. "Draw," Caleb said. The world stopped breathing. Then, the street exploded with gunfire. Smoke and dust swallowed everything. Bullets bit wood and glass. A window shattered above the saloon. A man screamed. Caleb moved like a ghost, fast and sure, every motion clean, every shot deliberate. Marisol ducked behind a trough, firing once. One of the sheriff's men spun backward into the street. Another aimed for her, but Caleb's bullet found him first. The sheriff's voice roared through the chaos. "Kill them both." Caleb took a hit to the shoulder, but didn't slow. Blood spread across his sleeve, dark and quick. He dropped to one knee, reloaded, fired again. His revolver smoked like a furnace. Marisol's pulse thundered. The world shrank to flashes of light and sound. The hiss of bullets, the smell of cordite, the heat of fear. She crawled to Caleb's side, pressing her hand to his wound. "You can't. Stay down," he rasped. A shadow moved behind them, one of the deputies, gun raised. Marisol turned, fired instinctively. The shot cracked through the man's chest. He fell without a sound. Caleb looked at her, surprised. "Didn't think you'd." "You were wrong," she said. The street went quiet again, smoke drifting like ghosts. Only the sheriff remained, crouched behind a wagon, reloading his rifle. Caleb stood, swaying slightly. His voice carried low and steady. "Come on out, Sheriff." The man laughed bitterly. "You think you're some kind of savior? You and your witch." Caleb's gaze hardened. "I'm just a man who's done running." He stepped forward, slow and certain. The sheriff rose from behind the wagon, rifle aimed. "You won't make it a 3, he said. "Try me. 1 heartbeat. 2. The sheriff fired. Caleb's gun flashed in the same breath. The 2 shots tangled in the air, one hitting the dirt, the other finding its mark. The sheriff stumbled backward, rifle slipping from his hands. He hit the ground hard, eyes wide in disbelief. Caleb exhaled, lowering his weapon. Smoke curled from the barrel like a final prayer. Marisol rushed him. "You're bleeding." He smiled faintly. "Ain't the first time." She tore a strip from her skirt, pressed it to his wound. "You could have died. Would have been worth it," he murmured. For once, they saw the truth. Around them, the townsfolk began to emerge, slow, cautious, like animals testing the air after storm. No one spoke. No one dared. The sheriff lay still. The dust began to settle. Marisol looked at Caleb. His face was pale, sweat tracing lines down his neck. "We have to go," she said. He shook his head. "It's done." But he took her hand, steady despite the blood. "They'll remember today," he said. "Remember what they did and who stopped it." She looked at him, really looked, and saw the man beneath the scars, the soldier, the father, the ghost who'd finally found peace in fire. The church bell rang once, long and low. Caleb turned toward the sound, his silhouette framed in sunlight and smoke. "Reckon it's time someone else carried the legend," he said softly. Marisol's eyes filled, but she nodded. Together, they walked down the street, through the dust, past the broken noose still hanging from the tree at the edge of town. Behind them, whispers began, quiet at first, then louder, spreading from door to door. He cut the rope. He faced them all. He called her his. The wind caught the words and carried them east, where the desert swallowed sound and memory. But the story was just beginning. The rope, the gun, and the name she earned. Gunfire cracked the dawn open like a whip. The first shot hit the dust beside the rancher's boot. The second ricocheted off the iron bell hanging over the barn door. The third tore through his hat and sent it spinning into the dirt. He didn't flinch. He just kept walking. Across the dry field, the mob stood waiting. Sheriff Dugan in front, the noose in his hand, the same rope that had nearly stolen the breath from the half-blood woman, now standing behind the rancher's shoulder. Her hair was still tangled, her neck bruised dark where the rope had kissed her skin. But her eyes burned steady, unbroken. "Thought you'd run, Holt," Dugan called, his voice riding the wind. "Thought you'd take the half-breed and disappear like a ghost. But you came back. Fool thing to do." The rancher stopped beside the old oak, the same one they'd hung her from. The same one now split by a lightning strike from the night before. He rested his hand on the trunk, feeling the charred bark under his palm, and then drew his revolver slow and calm. "Didn't come to run," he said, voice rough. "Came to finish what you started." The men shifted. Some spat. Some looked away. No one moved closer. "Boy," Dugan sneered, "you're protecting a mistake. That woman ain't white, ain't red. She's nothing. Filth born of the dust." Before he could finish, a sound rose behind Holt, a quiet metallic whisper. The woman had cocked his second gun, her hand trembling only slightly. "Then it's the dust that'll bury you," she said, her voice cutting the air clean through. A single bird screamed overhead, startled from the dead branches. Then the world snapped loose. Gunfire rolled across the valley like thunder. Holt's revolver spoke first. 2 flashes, 2 bodies fell. The woman moved beside him, firing low and sure, each shot cracking like she'd been born with gunpowder in her blood. Men dropped to their knees in the dirt, boots kicking dust and blood into the morning light. Dugan dove behind a wagon, yelling orders no one followed. Smoke burned the air thick and bitter. "Keep down," Holt shouted, reloading with one hand, the other gripping his rifle. "They'll circle left." "I know," she cut in, eyes fixed, her hair whipping in the wind. "I've seen this before. From both sides." Holt looked at her, really looked, and saw it then. Not just a survivor, a soldier of her own kind of war. She stepped into the open, fearless, and aimed straight for Dugan's shadow. The sheriff rose, gun ready, a smirk on his face. "You ain't got the right to breathe this air, girl." Her shot took his hat clean off. The second hit his hand, spinning his gun away. The third, she didn't fire. She walked right up to him instead, gun aimed at his heart. "Hang me again," she said quietly, "if you think I'll bow." Dugan's eyes darted to Holt, who stood just behind her. Holt didn't raise his gun. He didn't have to. His silence was judgment enough. The sheriff spat, blood mixing with dust. "You think folks will forget what you are? One man cuts a rope, and suddenly you're free? You'll always be half." Her fist broke his jaw before he finished. He dropped like a stone. When it was over, only the wind moved. The ranch yard lay scattered with guns and men who would never draw again. Smoke curled from the ground where the fight had burned hot. The oak tree stood dark and still, the broken noose swaying like a ghost's whisper. Holt walked over, slow, and cut what was left of it down. He wound a rope once around his hand, then tossed it into the fire. The woman watched as it burned, her face unreadable in the glow. "What'll they call you now?" he asked quietly. She looked up at the empty branch where her death had almost hung. "Doesn't matter," she said. "I'll make my own name." He studied her, blood on her cheek, dust on her lips, strength carved deep into her eyes. The kind of strength you don't find in books or legends, only in the broken, the hunted, the ones who refuse to stay dead. "Then make it with me," he said simply. She turned to him, her jaw tight. "You don't know what that means, Holt." "I do." He stepped closer, took her bruised hand in his. "You're mine, not because I saved you, because you chose to live." For a long moment, neither spoke. The sun rose slow behind them, painting the world gold and red. Then she nodded once. "Then we live." Years later, folks in that valley still whispered about the day the rancher faced down a mob to save a woman who was neither white nor native, but something stronger than both. They said she rebuilt his ranch, named it the Split Oak. They said she could shoot straighter than any man and that no one ever used that word, half-blood, again where her shadow reached. Old men would lean back in saloons, spit tobacco, and swear they saw her once, riding beside Holt at sunset, her hair streaked silver, her hand resting easy on a gun she never needed to draw again. And the story always ended the same way. "They hanged her once," the old storyteller would say, eyes glinting through the smoke, for being what the world called wrong. But she didn't die. The rancher cut the rope, called her mine, and from that day on, no one ever dared to call her anything less.